Hey everyone, and welcome to today's compliance analysis. We're going to break down the complex federal regulations governing the invisible chemicals involved in food packaging. It's a really fascinating look at the exact rules that keep our supply chain safe, specifically focusing on 21 CFR Part 178. So let's jump right in.
Think about your favorite snack or drink for a second. Before it ever reaches the grocery shelf, it touches countless materials and machines along the way. And that raises a really important question. What actually happens when manufacturing chemicals meet your food? We usually don't think about the conveyor belts, the plastic molds, or the harsh sanitizing washes, but they are absolutely crucial parts of the production process, and they require incredibly strict oversight to make sure nothing harmful sneaks into your meal. Now, to help you grasp these compliance requirements without getting bogged down in heavy legal jargon, we're going to follow a quick 5-part playbook. The hidden packaging risks, what are indirect additives, the core safety requirements, why these limits matter, and finally, the cost of noncompliance. This structure will show you exactly what the rules require and why they are so essential.
All right, starting with Part 1, the hidden packaging risks, the unseen journey of your food. Picture a massive manufacturing floor. When food is being processed, it inevitably interacts with the materials used to make and package it. That creates a really sneaky, invisible risk, chemical leaching. Even if a chemical is literally only used to clean a stainless steel tank or to shape a plastic bottle, trace amounts can potentially migrate right into the food itself. So, we need a rock-solid regulatory rulebook to manage this invisible interaction and keep all of us safe. That brings us to Part 2. What are indirect additives, or the chemicals you definitely don't see on the ingredient list? To really understand these rules, we have to draw a clear line between two things. First, you've got direct additives. These are the ingredients intentionally put into the food you eat. Stuff like salt, sugar, or preservatives that you'll spot right on a nutrition label. But on the other hand, you have indirect additives. These are the background substances like equipment sanitizers or plasticizers that might accidentally transfer over to the food. The rules we're looking at today strictly govern these indirect additives. They're just there to facilitate production and are absolutely never meant to be consumed. Instead of getting lost in a massive, overwhelming list of complex chemical names, it helps to just think of these additives in practical, everyday categories. We're talking about sanitizing solutions used to sterilize the equipment, or antioxidants that stabilize plastics so they don't break down over time. You also have machine lubricants for all the moving metal parts, coloring agents for the packaging itself, foaming adjuvants, and even anti-fogging agents. Basically, these are just the practical, everyday tools of industrial manufacturing. Which leads us directly to Part 3, the core safety requirements, following the strict manufacturing recipe. Think of this kind of like baking. If you use way too much salt, you completely ruin the dish, right? Well, in manufacturing, using excessive amounts of an aid violates compliance and seriously compromises safety. And it is amazing how specific the FDA regulation actually is here. For sanitizing solutions, the allowable limit for active iodine might be strictly capped at exactly 25 parts per million. For plastic formulations, and this might actually surprise you, they use substances like hydrogenated castor oil, but it cannot make up more than 4% of the polymer's total weight. And for metallic foil lubricants, the leftover residue is heavily capped at 0.015 milligrams per square inch. The regulation dictates these hyper-specific constraints to make sure substances are used only up to the exact threshold needed to get the job done, and not a single drop more. If you're a professional designing packaging or running operations, staying compliant basically boils down to a super logical 3-step verification process. Step 1, you verify that the substance is legally authorized for your specific use. Step 2, you check the absolute maximum allowable limit for residual traces just to make sure you don't overapply it. And Step 3, you ensure appropriate environmental conditions during use, like maintaining the right temperature. Simple as that. This process ensures every single material aligns perfectly with federal safety thresholds. All right, moving on to Part 4, why these limits matter, the science of microscopic safety. You're probably wondering just how strict these federal limits actually are. Well, the answer is they are literally microscopic. Let's look at the number 0.5. When you're sterilizing food packaging with a solution like hydrogen peroxide, the allowable trace amount left over in the packaged water cannot exceed 0.5 parts per million. I mean, that is a staggeringly tiny fraction, but it completely highlights why this matters. Even microscopic deviations are going to be flagged by regulators. Because at the end of the day, the entire intent behind this regulation is preventative. At its core, the rule exists to guarantee that the harsh chemicals needed to clean factory machinery or mold plastic containers never silently sneak into our daily diets at dangerous levels. It basically acts as this massive, invisible shield, ensuring that the heavy-duty tools of industrial manufacturing do not quietly become health hazards on our dinner plates.
And finally, let's look at Part 5, the cost of non-compliance. What actually happens when the rules are ignored? Look, failing to adhere to these exact measurements is not just some annoying paperwork typo. It has massive downstream consequences in the real world. If these limits are ignored, the packaging immediately loses its commercial sterility status. And once that happens, the processed foods inside violate broader public health laws. Those contaminated products then create severe safety hazards for consumers, and the company is going to face swift, strict regulatory action. Honestly, if you use just a little too much lubricant or an unapproved plasticizer, you trigger this huge domino effect of compliance failures that can shut down production lines and cause incredibly expensive recalls. So I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. How much trust do you place in the invisible systems keeping your daily products safe? The next time you grab a packaged item off the grocery store shelf, maybe take a quick second to appreciate the incredibly precise, totally invisible rulebook that guarantees it is actually safe for you to consume. Thanks so much for joining me for this compliance analysis, and keep asking questions about the hidden systems running the world around us.
If you found this helpful or want to stay updated when this regulation changes, subscribe and support the channel. And if you need the full technical details on this CFR, click the link in the description below. See you next time.